The great American poet Richard Armour once said that being retired is just being tired twice. First, tired from working, and then tired from, well, not working. In our society, it's always been viewed as the pot of gold to get to retirement. We're so focused on that as the goal. Of course, with the younger generation now being obsessed with this FIRE movement, right? Financial independence, retire early. I find myself asking, why do I not really see myself retiring? And why may I never retire? Let's discuss. Some people spend their whole lives just focused on retirement. They enter their work lives, after college or even prior if they don't go to college, thinking about retirement, socking away enough money and being able to someday, do nothing. Other people, they don't ever plan on retiring at all, or maybe they can't retire. Maybe they do not retire for one reason or another. Either they haven't planned properly and they don't have enough money, or maybe they just really like their job, they like their career, they own a business, and they love what they do. There is a saying that says, if you love what you do, you'll never really work a day in your life. So when I think about this FIRE movement, right? Financial independence, retire early. In other words, this whole group of people that's focused on retirement. What exactly does that mean? Well, I guess the thinking behind it is it's a retirement strategy focused on aggressively saving, aggressively investing, maybe sometimes too aggressively, because that can be dangerous, to achieve financial freedom a lot earlier than normal people would retire. Normal retirement usually happens between 62 and 65. This, younger generation really seems to be focused on retirement, which is kind of interesting, but not only retiring, but retiring so early. I see it more as, if I was to put a definition on it, as sort of like a financial movement that is defined by frugality and extreme saving and extreme investing. And like I said, sometimes extreme investing can, get you extremely bad results. It can actually be dangerous. Also, I'm thinking, how short of a time period are you giving yourself? A lot of these people talking about retiring early say they want to be retired by 30 or 35. Now, let's just assume for 1 minute that you have entered the workforce by 20 and you're going to be retired by 30? If you're going to live to a ripe old age of 75 or 80, 85, do you really plan on being able to work for 10 years and having invested at such a high level and earned at such a high level that you're going to be able to live for 50 years without doing anything at all? I'm going to tell you something. Not even Warren Buffett or Charlie Munger have been able to figure that out. And the other thing is that Warren is still working, and Charlie Munger worked right up until he passed away, okay? And he lived almost till 100, I believe. The point is, you probably aren't the financial genius that you think you are. Now, I'm not taking anything away from your desire to save your money, put it to work for you, invest safely, and retire early. But this whole giving yourself 10 or 15 years to do it is this incredibly awesome recipe for burning out and crashing and burning and maybe failing miserably because you don't know what the market's going to do. And you don't know what your investments are going to do. And you can put it into the place that you think is the most safest place, and still the market can turn on you. Another thing is that 30, 40, 50, 60 years to live past your retirement is great, but what has inflation done? The money you earned, you're earning it in today's dollars. And it makes sense that if you save half of it, that you're putting a lot of money away. Hopefully you have a great income. And that's awesome, but you're also going to live an extremely deterring life. You might not be happy, you may be struggling, you might even be unhealthy. You're doing all of this to try and live in a world where your money will be shrinking. Once it goes into a place where you're going to park it to hopefully earn a little bit of interest and being able to live off that interest, how is it going to do faring inflation? We don't know what inflation's going to do. And if it continues to do what it's always done, your money actually could deteriorate. depending on what kind of vehicle it's in. These are all things to look at. And unfortunately, this is one of the reasons why the FIRE movement has lost most, if not all, of its steam. Let's just talk about why people are even thinking like this, and then we're going to get into actual retirement. In 1992, Vicki Robin and Joe Dominguez wrote this book called Your Money or Your Life, a really interesting book. And in it, they kind of outlined the idea of this FIRE movement. What they're saying is that you want to work really hard, put away as much as you can so that you can stop working and retire. But actual retirement comes with a host of actual problems that people don't always think about. In other words, first off, a lot of people retire and they do retire too early, and they end up thinking, I retired too early. Now what do I do? I had a neighbor and a relative, I'll tell you both these short stories, when I lived in Maine, and a neighbor who used to spend some time in the house, a couple houses down from me, and really, really nice couple, a little older. Well, I see them coming in more and more and more. Most of the houses, I lived there full time, but mostly people would use these residences on the water and on this private island as a vacation home. And I noticed that they were just parking themselves there more and more. So one day I'm talking to the wife as we would run into each other on the road. And she said, oh, my husband just retired. We're going to be here full time. We're even thinking of selling our other house and just living here on the island full time. And I said, well, that's wonderful. That's great. They were a really nice couple, and we got along well and shared many meals in each other's homes. So the first, 6, 9, 10, 11 months goes by, and the husband's around all the time. He's out fishing. He's in the yard doing yard work. They're barbecuing in the back. They're living life. And one day I noticed that he's not around as much. And the next week, and I don't see him out on his boat anymore. And time goes by. I run into the wife again, and she says, oh, he went back to work. He just, realized that, he needed to work. And I said, what do you mean? Like, what's going on? And she said, well, just we had a few things go on. We ended up selling our house, but we thought we would get a little bit more, but the market's kind of down, so we didn't get as much as we had hoped for. And we have a son who's got some issues, and we're helping him out, and he's a little behind the 8 ball on his bills, so we loaned him some money. And next thing you know, they really know that they don't have enough money to live. Here they are in retirement wanting to enjoy their days, and they're on a real strict budget as it is, but now they just gave up a huge amount of money with the loss of what they thought was coming in on the house, and they loaned out some money, and inflation is taking the rest, and he decides to go back to work. A relative of mine had to do this same thing. She decided that she just didn't like her position anymore, and in her mid-50s, and she should just retire anyway. I mean, why work another 10 years, right? She's got a little bit of a pension, she's got a little bit of a retirement, and just decides to take the pension and retire. Well, so far it just hasn't been working out. There's several problems that have come into play. One, first off, what do, right? When you stop working, the one thing left to do is spend money. And maybe that becomes all you do. Now you're going to eat out more, you're going to spend more time with friends, maybe you want to travel. But since the husband in this case is not retired and does not want to retire yet, he wants to go for his full pension, then he wants to still work. In the meantime, she's found that her pension is not as good as she thought it would be, and they own 2 properties, which they have mortgages on both. One is also a vacation property, and now they may have to sell one. But the one that she would like to sell is the one they live in, and that one is tied to being near the job that the husband doesn't want to leave, and this has created a massive turmoil, in the house. So on top of not having enough money, she's realized she may have to also go back to work for 2 reasons. One, to fill the time void because she's losing her mind with nothing to do. And 2 is they kind of need the money. The pension just isn't going to be enough to cover both of the mortgages. The husband still needs to work. They still have plenty of expenses. And it just is not looking as good financially as they thought it was going to. Also, with inflation and the economy taking a dive, the properties are actually once again worth less right now, so it's not a good time to sell. and the money's just not going as far as she thought it would. So she's in the process of looking for a job. And now that she left her good job with benefits and a pension and a good payout at the end, since she didn't go to full term, she's just looking for anything and anyone that will hire someone in their mid 50s. And it's looking like more of these entry level and mid level jobs that don't pay well, don't have good benefits, want your working weekends and holidays. And it's just she traded a good situation for what's going to end up being a lousy situation, and she's still going to end up working. Now, the word retirement is supposed to mean you are retired. A lot of people, especially the younger people, are thinking, oh, I just want to make enough money to where I can retire. But then if I want to do something else, I can always go make money doing that something else. Well, first of all, that's not retired. That's called still working. And if you have a good job and you have a place that's maybe giving you a 401k and some benefits and a good retirement plan, then why wouldn't you want to stick that out? I'm okay with you retiring. Don't get me wrong. If someone is in a position and they want to retire, but you have to also look at some of the other things that go along with retirement. Statistics show that a lot of people who retire, I mean, maybe not a lot, but a percentage that can actually be calculated, expire within the first 6 months to a year of retirement. The percentages are extremely low, between 1.5 and 2%, but it has been shown that people who retire, and sometimes retire early, they die. They die for one reason or another. Maybe there was a health-related issue. Maybe they got depressed. But there is this very real thing called life force energy. And I'm not going to try and get all metaphysical on you, but, we've all heard about the couple that was married for 30, 40, 50 years, and maybe the wife passes away, and literally within 2 or 3 months, the husband passes away. And it's almost like you lose your purpose. You lose the reason for living, or the reason you thought you had for living. Our work life is very similar, and that does contribute to our mortality rate. Meaning, when you worked, you had this life purpose. You had this goal. You got up, you went to work, you did things that gave you a purpose. Now, all of a sudden, Monday hits, the first Monday after retirement. You've had your going away party, your retirement party, you've gotten your gold watch, and then boom, Monday morning hits at 9 a.m. and you don't have to be anywhere. So there's also a change in lifestyle. And that's also a reason that people may get depressed or fail health-wise, because you were due to be somewhere where you had to have human interaction. You had to have physical interaction. Maybe you physically did something at your job. You also talked to people and interacted with people. And also you have mental challenges that aren't there anymore. You had to solve problems at work, didn't you? You had things that you were responsible to do. And this is responsible for mental activity, you being challenged. Now, all of a sudden, Monday hits and there's no challenges, there's no physical activity, and there's no human interaction. Now, I'm not saying that retirement is bad and that you should never retire. I'm just saying that maybe slow and steady wins the race. Maybe it's okay to enjoy the process. If you don't like what you're doing and it's early on in your career, you can always change. You can always find something else to do. But I'm not trying myself to work towards an end. I'm not looking at the finish line here. I'm just saying I always have goals, and I can even hit those goals and then just keep moving my goalposts. And that's how I tend to work. I'm a goal setter. Right? I'm not looking at my work life as this big end game, right? What's the end game? I'm trying to get to retirement so I can just have all the time in the world to do the things I want to do. Well, I do all those things now. I happen to have a life where I am in control of my future, and you are in control of your future. So maybe you should think about your goals and not just be focused on the end game. Of course, you want to do the right things. You want to save. You want to have your retirement account. And it is important that if you love what you do, you're going to enjoy the process a little bit more. But remember, slow and steady wins the race. Enjoy the path. Enjoy the time. Try and enjoy your work. And believe me, you will want to be there. You will want to do that. And you will also do all the right things. In conclusion, retirement is not about just the word retirement and finishing the game. I now no longer have to work. It's about happiness and fulfillment and a life well lived. That is the goal. That's where I'm trying to get. And even once I get there, I'm still going to move my goalposts. It's okay to have goals. So once again, someone once said, the problem with retirement is you'll never get a day off. And if you are retired already, remember, you are retired, not expired. So just set your sights on the next goal, and I'm sure that you will get it. My name is Daniel F. Margasa. You are watching The Almost Criminal Millionaire. And if you enjoy the topics of finance, money, and the health and wealth of your bank account, then please like and subscribe for more.